What does it look like to enact Dr. Martin Luther King's vision of a beloved community at Rutgers? How do we eliminate prejudice and discrimination on campus? How do we resolve conflict using peaceful and nonviolent means? And how do we ensure that all community members have the support they need to thrive? The Tyler Clementi Center for Diversity Education and Bias Prevention's Inclusion Summit is one opportunity for students, faculty, staff, and postdocs in New Brunswick to come together, to imagine, to connect, and to learn how to collectively embrace our differences and make Rutgers more inclusive. This summit is also an homage to Tyler Clementi's life and our commitment to honoring his legacy. We hope you will see Tyler's creative and inquisitive spirit and his desire to live authentically woven into today's conversations. While we cannot change his untimely death, we can work to ensure that our Rutgers colleagues and classmates feel welcomed, respected, supported, and valued. Welcome! On behalf of the Division of Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement, we are excited by the possibilities that the summit makes space to explore and appreciate you for making the commitment to be here as we strive to transform the university. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I just spent the last 2 minutes cringing because nobody wants to see themselves up there, but I am so excited, as always, to be able to share space with you all, to come together as a community. You see the people in the room, in a full room that we have today, which I deeply appreciate, and know that we have almost equal numbers joining us online today. So when we think about these moments and this year in particular, last year, or the last 3 or 4 years, and the challenges that we've encountered, right? Just to remember that being in community together here at Rutgers can be not only uplifting and transformational, but really just a space and place for us to be and learn and grow together. So this is what brings excitement and joy to me today, and I hope you all really enjoy your time with us. As you already know, my name is Dr. Crystal Bedley. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Senior Director of Inclusion and Faculty Diversity in DICE. Okay, and I can use the clicker, so we're doing well. I want to take a moment just to share the Rutgers land acknowledgement with you all, and you see it on the screen behind me now. We acknowledge the land on which we stand as the ancestral territory of the Lenape people. We pay respect to Indigenous people throughout the Lenape diaspora, past, present, and future, and honor those who have been historically and systemically disenfranchised. We also acknowledge that Rutgers University, like New Jersey and the United States as a nation, was founded upon the exclusions and erasures of Indigenous peoples. So land acknowledgement is a simple, powerful way of showing respect and a step towards correcting the stories and practices that erase Indigenous peoples' history and culture, and towards inviting and honoring the truth. And they're not enough, right? I encourage everyone today, as we do repeatedly, to learn more about and visit the Honor Native Land page and commit to an action that you can take to support indigeneity. I also want to take a moment to share a community acknowledgement. And as my brief opening remarks I shared with you, we know that there is a lot happening in this moment, and this gives us an opportunity to acknowledge, right, and bear witness to that moment. We pause to acknowledge the space we hold as a community, thinking about current institutional, local, and global events, social issues, ongoing tension and contradiction, the ongoing impact and presence of illness, daily distractions, pressing deadlines, competing priorities, personal and collective grief, allostatic load, and things beyond this space, spoken and unspoken, which may be impacting us in many different ways. So truly, truly thank you for being in community with everyone today. To our program. For those who are with us in the room today, know that we have a quiet room set up upstairs. When you head out, if you head out those doors, the stairs closest to you, a space that if you just want a quiet space for anything that you need to do to have a lower sensory experience, it's there for you to use. The doors are open throughout the day. And it's in room 202 ABC. You can look for our event staff here who can help direct you as well. Also, those who are standing in the back, you are more than welcome to take a seat. This is a good time. I'm doing the housekeeping. Come on, join us. Okay, of course, we just kindly ask that you respect the quietness of that space if you go into it, and do not take any of the supplies provided. We use them at our large events. If you need a lactation or nursing room, that's here on the first floor, 106A, and if you see the front desk, they can provide you access to that space. There is a meditation and prayer room right next to that in 106B. The gender-inclusive restrooms are upstairs, and there's gender-specific restrooms right outside in the hallway here. Once again, any of our staff can direct you to these spaces. We're very grateful, as you can see on the screen here, to have cart services provided by Bernice Bonilla, who you can't see, but she's right over here making all the magic happen. I also want to remind folks that Rutgers subscribes to IRA, which is a live human-to-human visual interpreting service, and it provides 24/7 access to basically translate visual information for anyone with visual impairments anywhere on the Rutgers-New Brunswick campus. And also for our in-person audience, you can scan the QR code on your table to access today's agenda, which is also printed on one side of the tent, so feel free to flip it around. But that way you can also see our presenters page and our community agreements. I hope you'll take some time this morning to read through those, as this is how we affirm and ensure that folks are treated with respect in today's space. Great. And depending on how you learned about the Inclusion Summit, you may or may not be aware that DICE has a listserv. So I encourage folks who are not already on our listserv to scan the QR code that you see on the screen on the left side, or go to go.rutgers.edu/DICEList, DICELIST, to join our listserv today, so that you can stay informed of upcoming events and other opportunities just like this. Additionally, you may not know, but we have an Instagram page, and if you don't know about it, I highly recommend following which you can also do by clicking on the other link here, and the handle is Tyler, C-L-E-M, Clem, Center, C-T-R. So Tyler, Clem, C-T-R. Elena Yu has been doing wonderful work for several years now. We not only promo events, but to have talk through different educational opportunities. It really is a beautiful complement to the work that we're doing here. And our folks who are online, I encourage you to drop in your name and your department or school so you can all get a better sense of who's sharing space today as we engage in these interactive presentations. All right, and with that, it is now my pleasure to bring to the stage Dr. Tiffany Butler.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I feel like when I get really excited, I say things in triplicate, so as you get to know me, if you hear me say stuff, you know that I'm really excited. So for the folks who are in the room and for the folks who are on the internet, welcome. I'm so excited to see everyone here today. Again, my name is Dr. Tiffany Butler. I'm the Interim Vice Chancellor for the Division of Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement, or DICE as we affectionately call it. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Today, we collectively celebrate and participate in the 3rd Annual Inclusion Summit to kick off the academic year with capacity building workshops and opportunities to create a more inclusive campus. This year's theme, Disrupt Hate, Coalition Building Across Difference, is a call for faculty, staff, and students to bridge divides and work together across differences and departments to create positive change and affirm that hate has no place at Rutgers. As the world remains in chaos, with tensions ever growing, increased polarization, and the rise in hate-fueled incidents across the nation and world, there is no more critical moment than now to stop, reflect where you are in the context of that chaos, with all the relevant complexity of your salient identities and positionality, and choose how to engage in your present environment as we work to equip ourselves as a part of our Rutgers-New Brunswick community. with skills to disrupt hate when we see it and collectively imagine and build the community we want to be. The sessions presented today all demonstrate how each one of us plays an important role in stopping hate in its tracks. We kick off the day by sharing strategies individuals can use to stop hate in real time in all the spaces in which we work, learn, whether we're in the classroom, the residence hall, in the lab, walking down the street, or even on the bus. The next session builds on the historical lessons of solidarity, building on college campuses, allowing us to build upon earlier moments rather than reinvent the wheel. Throughout the day, we invite you to learn from the oral histories of queer activists living in Newark, who created systems of support and advocated for the rights of LGBTQI+ folks to live and love authentically. The listening session is available online in the Gathering Lounge at 2 p.m. For folks who have joined us in person, there will be an opportunity to process the lessons learned. Finally, the afternoon session provides the space and structure to imagine the community we want to become. One where compassion motivates actions, conflicts are resolved peacefully, and everyone's dignity, their inherent worth, is valued and respected. I now take great pleasure in introducing you to the new director of the Tyler Clementi Center for Diversity Education and Bias Prevention, Dr. Erica Friedman, who will introduce our first session's presenters. Let's welcome her with some applause.
Good morning, everyone. How amazing is Dr. Butler and Dr. Bedley? Thank you both. As you heard, I am Dr. Erica Jane Friedman. I welcome all pronouns, and I am honored and humbled to be in the role as your new director of the Tyler Clementi Center for Diversity Education and Bias Prevention. As a scholar practitioner embedded in this work for over the last 10 years at institutions in both New York and Florida, it's been wonderful getting to know the Rutgers-New Brunswick community over the last few weeks, and I'm thrilled to be with you here today to guide you through our amazing program of speakers. Our opening session today puts the summit's theme of disrupting hate into practice. One important way for each of us to honor Tyler Clementi's legacy and promote inclusion on campus is to interrupt bias when we see it. Daily indignities and other acts of bias disrupt learning and working environments and harm members of our community. Speak Up is a call to action for all members of the university community to respond when they observe bigotry and to be vigilant about disrupting personally held bias. Let me move to the next slide here. Here we go. Taking the stage to co-facilitate this workshop is our diversity education and outreach lead, Kaylin Padovano, and our assistant vice president for equity and inclusion, Joan Collier. And I'm going to introduce you both extensively for a second, so hold. Kaylin Padovano advances institutional equity and inclusion goals by helping to build, maintain, and share educational resources and tools to increase the capacity of the university community to engage across differences and promote an equitable and inclusive work environment at Rutgers. Kaylin is a licensed social worker with 15 years of experience in training and capacity building for organizational growth. Kaylin is also passionate about incorporating restorative justice principles and practices into higher education and using learning as a tool for disruption. She is an alumni of Rutgers University and Columbia University School of Social Work. Yes, some snaps for Rutgers alumni, right? Dr. Collier has over 10 years of experience in higher education as a practitioner and educator, leading university-wide strategic planning and diversity capacity building efforts at Rutgers University. She chairs the Diversity Education Network, which is really fun, by the way, which connects and expands equity, inclusion, and justice initiatives for students, staff, and faculty. A first-generation scholar and alumna of Georgia State University and the University of Georgia, Dr. Collier is also an affiliate member of the PhD in Higher Education faculty in Rutgers Graduate School of Education. Her work focuses on university-wide diversity capacity building efforts to foster cultural competency and bias prevention. Please join me in welcoming both Kaylin and Joan to the stage.
Well, if y'all can't hear us, just let us know. I'm Dr. Collier. Nice to meet everyone. Good to see y'all. Good to be seen. And this is the Kaylin.
Hi, everyone. I'm a little bit blinded by the lights, so please excuse my squinting for a little bit.
Okay, we're going to get going. So we're going to go through our Speak Up piece today. Some people may have already had this. Pause. Hey, people online, it's good to see y'all too. If you haven't checked it in the chat, go ahead and do it. No need to be stranger danger. Just let us know who you are. We want to see who all is in the collective room, okay? So some folks have done this before, but it's always timely to re-up on our skills on how we actually engage with people who are engaging in problematic behaviors. And sometimes a problematic person is us, right? So we're going to just go through this. We are going to, you got the clicker? We're going to next step it. We also had a land acknowledgement, but it's been acknowledged, so we want to conserve time and keep pushing. We had another one. We expanded out just a little bit, but, okay. Because there's always time to build community. Because the assumption is that because we have proximity, we have community, and that's a bad assumption to make. So that's a bad assumption, that everyone is on the same page because we're in close proximity. So we pause to acknowledge the space we hold as a community with ourselves and one another. As we navigate current institutional, local, and global events, again, social issues, ongoing tensions and contradictions, heightened antagonisms toward action for equity, inclusion, diversity, and access, the impact and presence of illness, daily distractions, pressing deadlines, competing priorities, personal and collective grief, and things beyond this space, spoken and unspoken, which may be impacting us in many different ways. And so we thank you for making time to be in community with one another and with us on today. Never assume that proximity means relationship or community, so we want to pause for that. All right, Kayla, next one. Go for it.
Thanks, Joan. All right, so what is Speak Up? We partner with the Southern Poverty Law Center, their Learning for Justice initiative, which unfortunately has been disbanded since we worked with them. They still do amazing work, but just to give an idea of the climate that we are working in when we are all doing this work. And we'll talk more about that. The objective for our session today is to learn how to use the 4 Speak Up strategies to stand up to bias and injustice. They are simple strategies. They're strategies that anyone in this room can, and I know does, engage in. And like Joan said, this might not be the first time you're getting this workshop, but we have some new examples that have unfortunately popped up as a result of the current tensions that are going on in this moment, current events. And we're going to be thinking about different ways to hone your skills, or maybe you might feel more confident to step up in different ways now. Why? We want to be a vibrant and inclusive community. If we want to do that, we all have to collectively reject hate. It cannot continue to fall on the backs of those who experience it the most. It is not their responsibility or their job to stand up to every single microaggression, injustice, act of bias. It certainly is everyone's right, and we're going to talk about that, but we all have to collectively step in and create a culture where these manifestations of bias are not acceptable. We cannot ban all offensive and hateful speech. Instead, we must commit to speak up and counter bigotry and hatred whenever and wherever we see it. And I wanted to just point to our Speak Up website and also our Reject Hate website, which, Joan, you'll fill in if I don't cover our many initiatives that we have going on related to, again, we are not going to and cannot all agree with each other. We want to respect our differences, and that includes differences in political opinion, differences that we might find to be unfortunately offensive and repugnant. But we do not have to be best friends. We do not have to all like each other, but we have to be in community together. It is the only way that we will survive through these times. So we have our Conversations That Ignite Change initiative that's going to be coming out. We have Bridging the Gap, which is a new program that we're going to be rolling out in the spring, summer, and fall about having contentious conversations and how to navigate that. So please take a look at either of these. And for folks online, we could drop the links in the chat too. I hope I'm not promising anything that the folks on the computer can't can't deliver, but take a moment to check out the resources.
Okay, and so this is a statement that we put out in the spring, is it spring? Or in the fall, in the last academic year. If you go to this link, this takes you to some more resources and work. But part of why we engage in active work is because the idea of fighting hate is really cute esoterically. It sounds really cute, but it actually requires action. Like when somebody says something, what do you say and what do you do? And one of the reasons why we brought this back to the Inclusion Summit is because online, we'll be in a session, I kid you not. We'll have over 100 people in this session, and when we go into small groups to practice the action, the discomfort invites people to leave. And in the moment when something happens, right, you go to what you're trained on. If you go to just what's normal, it might be to back up, move away. So we want to practice in real time how we speak up and what that looks like, in part because all of our humanity is bound up together. If you scratch anti-black racism, there's homophobia. If you scratch that, there's gender issues. You scratch that, there's Islamophobia. You scratch that, there's anti-Semitism. You scratch that, there's classism. It's all bound up. And so we want to be thoughtful about when something is said about me, who can speak for me? When something happens to you, can I speak up? Can I say something? So we have this quote here to sort of ground us in that sense of shared humanity, and there are additional resources here. And we talk about meeting the moment. So when something happens, not if, but when, what are we meeting the moment with? Unskilled engagement or thoughtful, purposeful engagement? That's what we want to think about. So that's what I offer to you. All right, next slide. Go ahead, Kaylin.
No.
All right, I'll stay here then. Yeah. So community agreements. In restorative justice, we talk about creating a container so that you know what you're getting into. Think of your container as the guardrails for how we engage. So if we go outside of that, we can say, we need to sort of get back in this. It helps us, it informs how we show up. So we want to say a couple of those things. One is that this is a low shame, high responsibility environment. Shaming is not cute. It is not appropriate. That's not what we really do. It doesn't invite learning. When you shame people, they just kind of pull back. They can't really deal with it. It's not helpful. It is a high responsibility space. So if and when someone says something that's like, that's not quite doing what it needs to do when someone raises it, it's not to shame, it's to say, help me understand more about what you were saying. That's what that's doing. We ask people to turn to wonder because I'm ugly sometimes and I turn straight away to judgment, and that's not helpful. So we ask people to turn to wonder and get curious. What might they have meant by that? I wonder how someone came to form an idea about that in that way. That's interesting, because if I turn to wonder, I can get curious and stay open. If I do what Joan normally does and turn to like, then I don't even want to know, I don't care, and it's not actually helpful, right? It positions me to stay over here in hostile proximity instead of being like, let me learn more. Let me exhaust understanding. Withhold judgment. Remember that folks are speaking in draft, grappling with difficult and sometimes uncomfortable topics, and that we are learning collectively. We're all getting our words together. So when you speak, you're speaking in draft, which means you can always come back and shift that, right? But like with any revision, you want to acknowledge what you previously said so you can change it, yeah? So that's our responsibility in our draft form, right? And it invites us to not be afraid of being imperfect, because perfection is not a real thing. And it will trap you and keep you stuck when you need room to move, okay? And then use some I statements. Please use your I statements, because I means I can engage with that. If it's what we think, who is we? I'm not French, okay? Don't do that. I statements give room to say, oh, that's interesting. I've experienced something similar, or I've experienced something different. And then we can engage in conversation. Kaylin, did you have something else?
And I just wanted to say that you'll see Joan and I modeling this as well, because the tricky thing about this work is when we're going through these scenarios, there's no one right thing to say. It all depends on your personality, your approach, and we can only speak from our own experiences too. So just something to keep in mind, and we'll talk about that when we go into positionality as well. All right, so I want to take a little temperature check, and for those of you online, you could drop this in the chat, or you could just reflect to yourself. So what Joan talked about, when we see bias occurring, when we hear a microaggression, when we hear that statement that we know is wrong, what stops us from intervening? And do we intervene? I know if there's any social workers, social scientists, psychologists in the room, you know that when we're in that moment, we are activated. We cannot necessarily think about the most rational and the best thing to say in the moment. But that is why we practice this work. So I want to get a sense of, where are you on this spectrum? And absolutely no judgment. You don't have to raise your hand, but I invite you to. So how many people, when they see something happen, they never speak up? How did I know that this room was going to be that answer? And what about anyone who's somewhere in the middle here? Sometimes you speak up depending on the situation. I think most of us are in the middle, right? So we're constantly making assessments. First of all, we're never going to ask you to speak up or step in when it's not safe. That is not what this training is about. This is about those moments when you feel ready to engage. So there's some work that even needs to happen before that, too. Calming yourself, centering, before you can even speak up. And then, who always speaks up when injustice occurs? Yeah, go ahead, raise your hand, please. Come on, I know we're in this room, right? Good. We hope that we can get folks who are, on this end of the spectrum a little bit closer to that. Again, this is all of our responsibility as a community to hold each other accountable. And I think sense of responsibility too. How many folks in this room believe it is never your job to speak up when injustice occurs? Not my problem, doesn't involve me. That's what I thought. And who believes that it is always your responsibility to speak up when injustice occurs? Be proud, raise your hands, yeah. And who's somewhere in the middle here? Good, yeah. So we talked about this. We talked about, again, those of us who do enjoy more privilege in any given situation, and that can shift. I believe we are even more called to speak up when we see this happening, because who is always the person who usually needs to intervene? The person who's being targeted. And we want to take some of that burden away. We need, like Joan said, to choose to be in community together and to have each other's backs. Joan, do you have anything to add to this?
I don't. One of my internal thoughts was, I think one of the reasons why I enjoy Speak Up as a framework is because there are people who have a strong sense of responsibility and it doesn't match their usual behavior. And so equipping people to sort of make that bridge between I want to say something, or something needs to be said, or something needs to be done, and I don't know what that thing is. This is a framework that can support people in making that leap into action. Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Identity matters. It always does. Are we going to click through the thingies?
Yes. Would you like me to put them all up?
You can.
Okay. Oh, never mind. I knew we were introducing this. So we're going to do an exercise, and Joan has graciously agreed to map her identities. Usually I map my identities on here, and we'll kind of talk about how they're different and how some identities either give privilege or take them away. But understanding your positionality is really, really important for this work. Because if we said that everyone could just jump into any situation and speak up with the same amount of risk, that is not realistic. Folks who are marginalized, folks of color, LGBTQ folks, folks with disabilities, are less safe often when speaking up in those spaces, or maybe are just exhausted or have had enough. So again, those of us who do have privilege, whether that's white privilege, cis privilege, able-bodied privilege, we want to acknowledge those identities and know that gives us, in some contexts, more power to speak up. Everyone has the power to speak up, but we want to think about our own positionality when we are doing so. Some of these identities that we're going to talk about are easier to change. Most are not. Our identities are typically with us from birth, but we're going to talk about some identities that are not. They're not, when we're going to ask you to think about your identities too in a Mentimeter poll, they're not, for example, hobbies, careers, personality traits that we largely can choose They are an important part of our identity, but they are not necessarily the points of either oppression or privilege that we're going to be talking about in our identity mapping today. Did I miss anything here, Joan?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
If we did, I'll get to it in the next one.
Okay, so now we're
It's me! All right, that's always fun. I can do that. So I'm Joan Collier. So I mapped some stuff out, and I'll go through sort of how I got to this map, because some people might be like, well, she's talking about her body. Body is neutral. Body is not neutral for me. I exist in a fat body, and that means that sometimes people talk to me sideways at the doctor, because the assumption is I don't actually know what's going on with my health. In the broader culture in the U.S., thinness is privileged. So I think about body in that way, even as if I go next door, able-bodied, right? I am able-bodied, and so I have immense privilege around the world being, our country being structured for me, right? I don't necessarily need a curb cut, but if it's there, best believe I'm gonna take it. I don't need the little handicap thing, but baby, when I walk through the door in the morning, I'm gonna slap it, and then I walk through the door like I'm a celebrity. It's my favorite part, right? Privilege. And my boss is here, she knows I live a luxurious life. Racially, I'm black in this country. I'm racialized as black, right? And there's a long history and legacy of anti-black racism in this country. And then ethnically, I'm African American. I'm the descendant of enslaved Africans on this land. And that comes with its own set of things. Gender-wise, I'm a woman. I could put cis woman here, so if I add the cis, right? When I go to the GYN, they are aware of my body. There are not extra questions or questioning if I'm a woman or not. But in the gender space where maleness can be privileged or is privileged, I'm a woman. And that looks different. So you see these ebbs and flows and nuances around how power comes together and does not come together. And then regional-wise, I'm from the U.S. South. I'm a girl raised in the South. And in the geopolitical sense in this country, when the North won the war, the South became a place of ignorance, of not knowing, and assumptions around Southern ways as lagging behind, unaware, ignorant, silly, goofy, unsophisticated. And so living in the Northeast, interfacing with some of those assumptions is really fascinating, right? So it's just like, oh, interesting. But also, I'm an American citizen. And so when I travel, that looks different. And then lastly, I'm Christian. Yeah. This is the normalized religion in this country, even though we have no state religion. And I'm a black Christian, so I'm a black Protestant. And I have a black liberation theology, which puts me at the outskirts of this, and still I am that. So I get the privileges of Christmas being a federal holiday. I don't have to ask off, it just is. If I say my pastor's gonna give me a letter of recommendation, it's assumed it's gonna be good. There's no private meeting to see if my pastor is a member of a terrorist organization. You understand? So that's what identity looks like when I think about the mapping of marginalization, privileging, and normalization. Does that make sense? Y'all are in here, y'all are cooking with fish grease, okay? It's Friday, where I'm from, we fry fish. Y'all are ready for the cookout, okay? All right, so this is what y'all are gonna do on the Slido. It's not gonna have your name on it. Kaylin, am I going too fast? No?
No.
Okay, y'all over here ready in IT? Shout out to IT, clap them up real quick. They're not gonna let me down today, not today. It's gonna work, all right. So you're gonna go to the Slido, hey, and you're going to go to slido.com. Child, I think I did this right now, wait a minute. They put me in charge of technology.
I think
we're gonna see.
Is this the second question, Joan?
The second question, we'll go to that one.
I think this is the second question.
Can we go back to the first question?
About?
It should be, what are your social identities? So you see the second question. So when the disruption happens, take advantage. You already see what we're about to ask you next. But this is what we're going to ask you first.
Yeah.
This is the first one. So what are your social identities? What are the ones I will offer that you would like to share in this space? It'll be a word cloud. So it won't be like Joan Collier, Baddie of the Year. It won't say that. We all know that's what it means, but it won't say that, okay? Yeah, disabled,
perfect.
cis.
Thank you.
Yeah. White, woman, okay. Afro-Dominican, okay. Woman, white, okay. Cis, black woman, disabled, Caribbean, non-denominational. Hispanic, queer, Arab, Latinx, neurodiverse, shout out. Visually impaired, yes. Yes, absolutely. Jewish, Arab, New Yorker. Folks online, this is for you too? I know, okay, shout out to the online people. They said we won't be left out today. Southern Mama, I know that's right. Yeah, okay, shout out to Cape Verdeans in the building or online.
Proud Haitian.
Okay, it's
First generation.
This is so delightful.
Yeah.
Sometimes people confuse diversity with like it's too much. Think of it as richness. Think of it as seasoning in a pot, right? And so when we have all of this represented, right, and it's 9 people still typing who are gonna add to this richness, imagine how beautiful this quilt is. Imagine how flavorful this recipe is. It's also right for us to tear some mess up because we don't know, right? So we want to be intentional with how we show up with all of our young Caribbean, Jewish mothers, women, slim thickies, the proud Haitians, the fats, the neurodiverse, the Southern folk, the rest Caribbean, the first generation, the single parents, right? All right, let me go make the other one. I'm about to cut this off in 10 seconds. Online, you got 10 seconds. I got to switch poles. But just take in what's all up here. How delicious is that? Just delightful. All right, we're going to the next one. So now, knowing all that you know, how do your social identities affect you when you notice or speak up against bias?
Or I would add, when you don't speak up.
Huh?
Not assuming that we are.
They're going to think I'm an angry black woman. She always saying something. Is because y'all raggedy. Yes, I am going to say something. English as a second language. Well, if I say something, they might start cracking jokes or they might talk to me back like a commercial and that's not where I'm trying to be at. Or it puts a target on me. Power differential. Somebody with more power, be it positional or otherwise, made the statement, and I need to pay for college, or I like the house that I live in because I like not sleeping on the streets. Sensitive and emotional. Somebody gonna call you thick or talk about your body. They're gonna try to play in your face and say, you're so passionate. And passionate is low-key rude for saying, you're too emotional. We value your logic better. Somebody gonna say you unqualified. They're gonna say you too preachy. Yeah, because folks expect you to just speak up anyway, and you're like, why do I have to be the one to do it? They're going to try and call an activist a slur and be like, you're such an activist.
I saw a couple too young to be taken seriously, too young to be understood. Sometimes we're in rooms where it's the opposite. So I'm old, I don't know anything, I can't, understand what's going on. Ageism.
Yes. Too old.
You have an agenda, a gay
lack
agenda.
Lack of seriousness, yeah. Yeah, Joan, no ma'am, keep that to yourself. Keep that, we on TV, no ma'am. And so we see why people are hesitant or can be hesitant. I'm gonna close this out another 5 seconds. Yeah, that you speak for your entire ethnicity. I mean, I wish I was elected spokesperson for all African Americans and black people. I have not been awarded that distinction yet, so I'm not.
Until then. I also saw a couple comments about not want to be seen as a white savior or, the white person using their power or privilege to take someone's agency away. We do not speak up to take anyone else's agency away or anyone else's power away. That is why it's so important to recognize our own position. I, as a white woman, I can only speak from my own experience, and when I'm interrupting bias, it's the same thing. I'm not going to say, don't say that because Joan looks really uncomfortable. No, I'm uncomfortable by that comment. I'm not okay with that, and I need you to stop. So we'll practice that as well, not speaking for someone else, not taking their agency away, but we're still standing up against the hate, the injustice.
Thank y'all so much for participating in that, online and in the room. Y'all were on fire. Y'all, please clap for yourselves. Y'all not clapping hard enough for yourselves for me. Clap harder for yourselves. Yeah. Because sometimes people don't clap for themselves, and why would you not? Y'all did that. Like, cut it out. All right. I think we can go to the next one. Yes. Yeah. We're going to move on into the strategies now and talk about what those look like. So there's 4. How many are there? Ooh, how many are there? See, now the back of the room, okay, in front of the room, y'all got to tighten up. All right, so it's 4 strategies. You're gonna, what's the first one say? Interrupt. So you're gonna speak up against every bias remark, every time, in the moment, without exception. There's an asterisk there. We're gonna get to that. Think about what you'll say ahead of time. That's important. Ahead of time. So you're prepared to act instantly. All right, trying phrases like, I don't like words like that, or that phrase is hurtful, or something about that, I don't know. The next one is educate. You're gonna explain a term or phrase is offensive. Encourage the person to choose a different expression. Hate isn't behind all hateful speech. That is important. Hateful intent is not behind every hateful word, okay? And so sometimes ignorance is at work, or lack of exposure to a diverse population, or folks who are different than you. Try saying, do you know the history of that word? Right. Sometimes people just not thinking. It's not, they haven't been socialized around it. So how would they know and why would they know? That's what I ask myself. How would someone know and why would they know? The third one is echo. This is my favorite one because it's low-key messy. I love it. If someone else speaks up against hate, thank the person and reiterate the person. Let me just read it. Thank her and reiterate her anti-bias message. One person's voice is a powerful start. Many voices together can create change. Try as they saying, thanks for speaking up, Allison. I agree. That word is offensive and we shouldn't use it at all. That's great. So this is when you're talking about mansplaining. I like to echo when somebody says something utterly chaotic and I repeat it back to them so that their ears can process what they said. And then I go into, do you know the origin of that? Do you know the etymology of that? Do you know where that comes from? I'm interested, I'm curious. And then the last one is question. Ask simple questions to find out why the speaker made the offensive comment and how you can best address the situation. Try asking, why do you say that? What do you mean? My favorite, tell me more. Smiley face. So these are like cousins. You can pull them together. You can mix and match them. You just want to get to work with it. Yeah.
Yep, the only thing we don't want you to do is nothing. So any of these. And when we go over the scenarios too, we're gonna be asking you how you might intervene. You don't have to remember exactly what each one is called or anything, but just think about which one of these is right for you. You know, if you're not someone who's a vociferous person, maybe you're doing more echoing or questioning or something like that. Maybe you are someone who just flat out interrupts every single time. That is wonderful. All right, so I think we've all been here. We are going to talk about a couple different scenarios, some classroom-based, some not, all based on real things, unfortunately, that have either happened at Rutgers or case examples from other schools. But I think we've all been here. You're tongue-tied. Someone has said something biased. It makes you feel uncomfortable. It makes you feel angry. You want to say something, but you just don't know what to say. This happens. Those of us who teach in the room know that this happens all the time. Maybe it's a student, maybe it's a colleague that you like, that you respect, maybe not so much, or maybe you're the one who said something or did something that you know was wrong, but you didn't address it in the moment. Oh my God, can I go back to it? We'll talk about that too. Maybe you laugh along, a forced or awkward laugh because you don't want to be rude. You see students grappling with the same issues. Sometimes just asking, I see everyone laughing right now. What's that about? It's a very social worky question, but can be very, very powerful. So just a brief content warning. Again, these are based on real scenarios, and each video obviously talks about an incident of bias. Language might be upsetting or hurtful for some people. Some we have videos for, a couple we don't. We just have the scenario. And then please do what you need to do to take care of yourself. We'll be available to speak afterwards, and you can get up and take a break, whatever you need to do. But we thank you for being here as we talk about these real situations and how we would speak up together as a community. So we're going to watch each video twice. I will mercifully do the one where Joan is in, so she doesn't have to talk about herself, but it's wonderful. So I want us to think about what are the identity dynamics at play. Consider your own identity. We want to think about, we're answering this from what would you do, not what anyone else should do or what everyone should do. What would you do? Which strategy would you use? Why? What would you say? So we're going to watch each video. They're very brief. We're going to watch each one twice just to make sure we get the whole thing.
I didn't know what to say. I was at a university-wide social event where people around me were speaking multiple languages. A colleague turns to me and says, "This is America. They need to speak English." I didn't know what to say.
And we'll just play it one more time.
I didn't know what to say. I was at a university-wide social event where people around me were speaking multiple languages. A colleague turns to me and says, "This is America. They need to speak English." I didn't know what to say.
All right, so remember, this is a social event. This is a colleague that says this to you. This is not during work time. First, what identities are at play here? And we have several mic runners around the room. We use a mic, even if you think you don't need it, we use it just so that people online can hear and that everyone in the room can be able to hear. What identity dynamics are at play here? And you can reflect on the speaker's identity as well. We don't know all of the speakers' full identities just by looking at them, obviously, but you can reflect on that too. What is at play here? What's going on? What are we seeing, hearing?
So I don't want to make an assumption about the gender or race of this person, but I will say he probably is not bilingual, or she or they are not bilingual. But I think this is a perfect opportunity for the question. Why do you think they should only speak English?
What about this makes you feel so uncomfortable?
Yeah,
thank
and
you, Marshall.
speaking multi-languages is a superpower.
And we don't seem to realize that in America, right? We're a long way away from that, but absolutely.
I think the other thing is that the person felt comfortable telling. So what is it about that, right? And you and your personhood, they were like, oh, they agree with me. And so sometimes I think, I don't remember the strategies, sorry. But sometimes I think this is a fun place for sarcasm. Really, I actually like it. I think it's cool. I wish I spoke another language, right? It's another way to kind of unsettle the person and their assumptions.
I'm not going to collude with you. Yeah, absolutely. And I know you do that sarcasm with grace and wit, and it would be beautiful.
I think you can use like a bit of humor or something, like, don't worry, I'm sure they're not talking about you.
Thank you, Shahida. Or maybe they are. No, I love that.
Or maybe they are.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, you can also ask them if they know that English is not the official language of the United States.
Blue, hit them with the education.
I love that.
Y'all are doing nasty work. I love it. I love every bit of it. We do not have an official language, nor do we have an official religion. We don't have any of that. And when we went to take a vote, the official language was almost German. Like, there was a time in history where it was like, we need an official language. But that came out of nativism. We need a language. And it was between English and German. It was like, actually, we don't need that. Yeah, the more you know, do-do-do.
Yeah. Many countries do have multiple official languages too, but
we have one more right here.
I think the other identity that's at play is national origin, because sometimes there's an assumption that because you speak another language that you weren't born here in America. And so I think maybe perhaps just reminding that person that since the history of this country, there have always been multiple cultures and languages. So just to help educate them in a way that, I don't know, just reminds them about our history.
You see how education and context will change somebody's life every time? I love to see it. I see more hands, but we have like 3 more of these. So we're going to have more opportunity to do this work. We are coming to more hands in a minute. IT has told us that they are just going to run through all the videos. So hang tight for we'll do 2 minutes of a minute and a half of videos, and then we'll come back out to the audience, okay? All right. Y'all are so great. Thank you for your support.
I didn't know what to say. It really bothered me every time my professor misgendered River by calling River he, knowing that River uses ze/zer pronouns. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say. It really bothered me every time my professor misgendered River by calling River he, knowing that River uses ze/zer pronouns. I didn't know what to say.
All right, so a professor misgendering one of your classmates. What identity dynamics are at play here? And we want to get in the practice of naming it. I know it's obvious to us in the room a lot of times, but naming it can be really helpful in thinking about what your approach is going to be, or that is an interruption strategy in and of itself. So you just misgendered this person. Naming what just happened can be powerful. Yeah.
I do think you need to, since we don't know like the identity of the professor, that's a big one to look at because their background could show that they're not used to this. And if it doesn't seem like it was a one-time thing, but if they're not making an attempt at all to try and correct it, then it becomes a bigger issue than just like an accidental misgendered.
Yes, definitely. Is this the first time it happened, or is this something that's repeated or unfortunately intentional, like we unfortunately have had happen? Yeah, absolutely. And how might you intervene? This one's a little tricky.
There's also the power dynamic that this is a professor and a student, so they may be afraid if I say something, how this is going to affect my grade, my final grade. Yeah. So in this case, if the student is brave enough to go with the other student and speak to the professor after class, or visit office hours and say, I'd like to educate you on how I would like to be referred to moving forward.
Yeah, thank you for naming that. This might not be a moment where you're going to just blurt it out in front of everyone in the moment. Yeah, and there's other reasons for that too. How might you intervene?
I think
Sorry, the lights are blinding me.
No, I think that I think that power dynamic issue may go from both sides. That the professor also may be holding on to a bit of their own power. Of I don't need to necessarily worry about this, but I also think that the identity of the person in the video, as a woman, I find myself in the company of men often hesitant to speak up, and as a student of color, she may feel as a marginalized identity to begin with that it may be difficult for her to speak up in terms of somebody else. I will say that in those situations myself, I tend to increase the number of times that I have to bring up the person that's being misgendered and gender them correctly, repeatedly. And then I also often identify that I use they as the generic pronoun until I am told differently. And possibly, that I might actually, if I were a student, speak to another professor or an advisor in the department rather than confronting a professor directly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see another hand in the back. And then we're going to queue up the next one.
This also might be a cool opportunity, instead of confronting, because I think it is delicate, to say, I wonder if we could all review the pronouns, right? Because one of the things with the new capacity that was added for folks to list their pronouns in the roster, right? And so to more gently, right? So to more gently say, it would be helpful when we introduce ourselves, we're trying to learn each other's names, so that to say something that gives the room an in, as opposed to saying, Professor X is terrible, right? So to say, hey, can we start class next time? Can we, depending on the size and scope. My other favorite strategy for this is to say, I know with a lot of us it's hard to keep our name straight. Can we try identifying features? So red shirt, black cap, right? Like what are, so it's more gentle. So I think the moment can call for that, particularly when you feel like, as everyone else has noted, power is central and you're not sure how to navigate it, and that might be better received.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely. And another thing to consider here, too, about speaking up in the moment is if this is the first time this happened, we actually don't know if we don't want to necessarily out River's pronouns if they're not comfortable with using them yet. We know that that is their pronouns, but we might want to consider following up, hey, I saw the professor, or I heard the professor say that today, how can I support you? To just check in with that person first. Absolutely okay.
Thank you so much for saying that, because I was just going to echo Dr. Branch's sentiment and some of the 4 steps. I didn't get them all either. I was late. I'm sorry.
No.
But I think that it's really important to, in all of these situations, to come from a place of grace and not make an assumption that the person who has committed the potential infraction, that they were being disingenuous.
Right.
It's a lot of information, and kind of going back to that point about working things out in draft. Again, if this is draft, learning is messy. And so the same way that we take the time to kind of like mess it up in learning, we have to be willing to fix it. And so I have several friends, colleagues who will use they, he, her, Z, like they don't even care, you know? So maybe River is one of those people who's like, it don't matter, I'm a human being, get it how you live, I'm good, you know? So you don't necessarily know. So I think that having some self-reflection to make sure that you're not like projecting on someone, that you're not making assumptions, that you're not making something that don't have nothing to do with you about you. Maybe if you don't like the professor, you assuming that the professor is being shady, but maybe not. So I just think that it's really, really important to give it a minute, you know, and then kind of ask some probing questions and employ some of those other strategies that people have acknowledged. But I think starting off is really important to make sure that we're not just assuming the worst of people. Because I think that like taking that energy into these situations where you're trying to be mindful can distort the mindfulness. Because if you already started from a place of like negativity and thinking that somebody was being shady, you probably not really extending a whole lot of grace to think that they were just messing it up, but not giving them the time to fix it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Always assuming the best intentions.
Yep. So for the next 2 videos, because y'all been rich with your offerings, we need to run through the next 2 videos and then engage, okay?
Thank you,
Because y'all
Joan.
been real generous.
I forgot my watch. So
I did not. And you know how I feel about time. I got ADHD, so time does not exist to me. But I'm on the stage, so I got to. So the next 2 we're going to run through, and then we're going to debrief. We good? Because y'all been out here doing your job. All right.
I didn't know what to say. I asked my professor if there was a way to access the course textbook without purchasing it. His response, if you're that poor, maybe you shouldn't be in college. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say. I asked my professor if there was a way to access the course textbook without purchasing it. His response, if you're that poor, maybe you shouldn't be in college. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say. I was on Zoom for class when a student posted in the chat that they think all gay people are going to hell. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say. I was on Zoom for class when a student posted in the chat that they think all gay people are going to hell. I didn't know what to say.
As you can see, the classroom is ripe for shenanigans. Ripe for shenanigans. So in this clip, we have an online session where somebody is showing out in the Zoom chat. And on the previous one, a professor got slick at the mouth and was basically like, you poors don't need to be here. So you're in these conversations, you're aware of them. What might you say? What are the dynamics at play that you're trying to navigate while you're thinking about how you might intervene?
The second clip that we looked at was actually a situation that happened to me when I was in high school during online learning during COVID. I was in a government class and we had the opportunities to create our own countries, and this girl said that in her country only the 2 genders were allowed. And then a lot of us didn't like that, so we unmuted and we were like, so why do you feel that way? Because right now in this country, there aren't 2 genders. There's 2 sexes and there's 2 classes, but it's a variety that you can be any of them. But we opened up a conversation by first asking her, why does she feel this way? Or like, how did she come to this conclusion?
Asking questions, letting people, I don't need to make assumptions. I'm just gonna ask you what you said. I'm just gonna ask. I'm gonna turn to wonder and get curious. Smart-mouthedly, but I am, right? What else might you do in either of these situations?
In the second case, my first question might be, so that's because the statement was, I think all gay people go to hell. I would perhaps be interested to ask, and what judgments or conclusions will you draw from that? Because if that's your belief, maybe I'm willing to leave that with you, but are you going to judge people on the basis of that? Are you going to discriminate on the basis of that? Because that would require more action than just a belief, perhaps.
Asking questions, right? Asking questions. This is not an uncommon scenario. Right? I see the educators in the room. This is not an uncommon scenario. So how do you engage when this happens? Right now, someone would say that in the chat, and if this were the chat, the response would be, I'm interested in what are the implications of that for your practice, and that's interesting that you think that in your other country that you would mean that all gay people go to hell. What does that mean? That's what the chat will look like. So the person who is gay or lesbian, bisexual, along that queer spectrum is sitting in a room with 150 people and 2 people have spoken up. Does that make sense? So what might we say or do if we're in that chat? And this is what someone's saying. There's a hand here.
I'm going to find a way to make my world more inclusive for you. So if you don't want to go to that world, that country there, why don't you come over here? Because over here, I'm willing to play with you. We're going to have games and fun, and I'll have food. Just come on over. If you really feel that you're not welcoming, you're not going to be welcoming for those people, well, I'm welcoming. My door's
Drawing
open.
a larger circle.
Okay?
I love that.
And that's the thing. Then for the first one, and the poor student, quote unquote, where did that come from? I want to know, how do you feel? How could you feel that way? You do realize that textbooks nowadays are outrageous. There are, and on top of that, there's just more ways for us to access the information without actually purchasing a book. So all I wanted to find out was, is there another way? Because we can learn. There's more ways to learn than just reading one textbook.
So I want to just unpack this real quick because you did such good work right here. Everyone's done good work, but this was so much fun. So countering that speech with other speech, right? Yeah. Okay, so you think everyone's going over here. Well, I think in the space that we've created, this is what people can experience, right? Providing a counter to that so that the assumption is not everyone else believes this too, right? There are other people who believe that that's not true, right? And people are entitled to their beliefs, right? People are entitled to their beliefs. But that means I'm entitled to my beliefs too. And I can share those back out to provide a counter to what else is sort of out here, right? So there's that piece. Oh, shenanigans. Oh, yes. For the one about students who are poor, right? Asking questions. Because there are times when sometimes faculty actually are not aware, perhaps, that their book could be available made through the library or are not aware of the other resources. So asking back, oh, that's interesting. Are there other ways that someone can get textbooks that don't require them to buy it, right? So those sorts of questions invite someone back into a conversation, doesn't move to judgment. This happened to me in a faculty meeting, and I wasn't surprised by my colleague's comment because I had heard that before. I was frustrated that the person felt comfortable enough, given our context, to say it, knowing what our mission was in our department, that we wanted students to have access to books regardless, right? So that was a comment was like, bad word, bad word, bad word. So asking questions, getting curious. Any other strategies? There's another hand. Ooh, 2 hands. Oh, 3 hands. All right, 1 hand, 2 hands, 3 hands. Go over here.
I would just interrupt, sort of, or just say, this is offensive, or I find this really hurtful in those respective situations, and then to follow up with a question like, would you be willing to look into other ways to access that coursework? Or would you tell me more about how you came to this idea about who should belong and who shouldn't? But to just name that the thing is offensive or hurtful and then follow up with that question, that's usually my style.
I want to say, too, when we interrupt these things, the person, they might curse us out, right? They might not be listening.
Yes.
They might not be able to listen, but they might think about it the next time they say something classist or homophobic. They might just take that extra second to think about it. And, Joan, you can't keep using shenanigans without saying your joke about shenanigans.
Baby, if they shenan once, they gonna shenan again, okay? So you got to catch it on the first time. You got to get it at the root, baby, because you're not.
So to prevent shenaning again, they might just think about it that much
first
more.
time you cut up, wah, 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 I don't think so. So yeah, sometimes people don't want to. Well, let me say people. I am a bit theatrical, bit dramatic, got a little flair. And so, I know, right? The audacity. And so, naming that something hurts a feeling is something that I'll do, and folks will go, oh, but you're leading with emotion. Yeah, the impact is my feeling was hurt by that. That's actual. My feelings was hurt by that. I experienced that as rude. I experienced that comment as disrespectful. You see how I'm using my I statements? And you can say I didn't experience it. Baby, you're not me. So how do you know? And even if you disagree, it's still the truth. I experienced that as limiting the space that we're in, and I experienced that as being offensive. And I'm interested in how you got to that. I am interested in, I was offended by you saying that all queer people go to hell, and I know a God who does something different. My theology looks different. You Christian, me Christian, well, that's fine. We can go toe-to-toe on who Jesus is or is not. But we get to lead with what is salient and true and add it on. These are not separate things, right? So I love every single bit of that. And Kaylin's right. Sometimes people will cuss you back out. Okay. Or they think that you're being ridiculous. Okay. They think, right. And you think I'm being ridiculous and I'm right. What's up? Like, okay. You are rude and I have capacity to want to know more, because in my world, let me go ahead and plug this lecture on October 9th, when my brothers draw a circle to exclude me. This is Polly Murray. Polly Murray says, I draw a bigger circle to include them. So you gonna tell me you don't fool with me. That's what's up. Again, we don't need to be besties, but in my bigger circle, I still want you to be well. And I have to question, how is it, that's not the question. The question is, can you understand how you can hold your beliefs and that still might be hurtful to somebody else? I'm not saying you can't have it. I come from a very Protestant background. These are home life conversations. You can have your belief and we are in community. What that is doing is hostile proximity. So how do I draw a bigger circle? That's the question. If you have not signed up for that lecture, you're in bad shape. Go ahead and check that diversity website. I'm sure we'll plug it again toward the end, but that's what we're talking about. And Kazu Haga's coming back. Y'all don't know, but that's my bestie. Okay, I love it. If you haven't caught the first lecture, go ahead and catch that. But y'all understand how we got to ask some questions and get at some stuff? Sometimes we get in trouble with this. One of the earlier questions was, and I'm off script, Kaylin, not sorry, but sorry.
Please.
One of the things was, someone might think I'm trying to be a savior. Sometimes we do that. We jump real quick because we just want to say something. We create spaces like this so we can think about what the something is, so that is thoughtful, so that it's intentional. And in our aim to do good work, we're not excluding or shaming or shutting down in a way that actually doesn't move us toward understanding or relationship. We do want to, we're never promised psychological safety. That's not what we're doing. Folks have different opinions, different ideas, and some of the opinions and ideas rub us the wrong way. I've lived with people who have opinions and ideas that rub me the wrong way my whole life, and I've had some really raggedy opinions and thoughts myself. And thank God for the people who were gracious with me. So how do we, somebody was finna clap. Y'all, this is not church. I will shout, don't do it. Don't do that.
Do it.
Don't do it. So I say all that to say is we want to be thoughtful about how we engage. When you're educating, if you're like, did you know that? I'm not saying you wrong. I'm saying, is it helpful? Are you educating out of trying to build a bridge, or are you educating to embarrass? I've done both. I'm smart. I will embarrass somebody real quick. I will. I'm ugly on the inside. I told y'all this. I will. But was that useful, Joan? No. I showed them, and now there's no relationship there. I can't draw a bigger circle because I made the circle smaller to put them on the outside. I'm not always my best self. So catch me on a good day, right? But that's sort of the work that we do here. So be clear about what you're aiming for. Sometimes we're just trying to stop harm in real time. When the harm has been paused, then we need to reevaluate, say, how could I have done? Just reflect on what your practices look like. That's all I'm saying. All right? Stop the harm in real time and then go from there. I've been talking enough, Kaylin, my bad.
Do you think we should go to the last two scenarios?
Yeah. Okay. All right, y'all. These are present time things.
We can go back to the PowerPoint after all the videos.
We're going to have y'all out of here on time.
But no, Joan, that was amazing. I would say mic drop, but I respect our amazing colleagues at the Livingston Student Center here.
They would manhandle us if we dropped these mics. They would come get us and put us out of here, so we're not going to do that. We respect your craft too much.
So this scenario, and this is helpful because we have these up on the screen. You all have been doing all of these: echoing, challenging, educating, interrupting. You are with a group of friends who are walking down College Ave when the group sees two individuals perform a Nazi salute towards a known Jewish affinity space. What do you do? So your group of friends is not doing this. You are walking with a group. You see this happening. How might you interrupt this?
I would right away call campus police, because that's inappropriate. And I feel threatened. I feel lots of people would feel threatened, and I don't want other people to feel the same way. And I don't even identify as a Jewish person.
Thank you. Any other ways that you might interrupt this if you see it happening?
Sometimes it's effective to feign ignorance. What does that mean? What is that symbol that you're doing? What is that salute that you're doing? So that they have to explain it and then get into a conversation from there.
Yeah, this is not going unnoticed. I'm naming this and forcing you to explain what you're doing in that moment.
I think that makes me wonder a question, if you don't mind, like when you're going to use the question strategy, does it depend on the positionality of that person? Because are you giving oxygen to hate speech or hateful ideas in a way that maybe then they kind of feel empowered?
Yeah, I mean, could be. So, I mean, if I see some folks carrying on like this, as a black person, if you're doing the Nazi salute, that applies to me too. But I'm also an administrator. So I can figure out how Gucci I'm feeling that day, right? Or if I need to just immediately, one, I'm calling, right? Because that's a threat. And then I am seeing how I could potentially intervene if I literally believe that my physical safety is okay. So if these are students that I think are being ridiculous, but their implications are horrendous, that's one thing. If there are people jumping out the back of trucks doing this, that's a very different thing.
Yeah, and this is an example of how context does matter. If this is someone you know, God forbid, doing this, or you have a relationship with, then there might be more room to ask those questions and elaborate. But if this is a person you don't even know, so we're gonna maybe approach that a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And think about safety, like Joan said.
Yeah, because I mean, this is bias, right? In real time, these things happen. So what might we do? And we're not saying go talk to people and have individual conversations, but what might you do? What might you do, right?
Okay. And what do we usually tend to do, which is keep walking. Oh, I'm sorry, did I do something? No.
Crystal, was there a hand in the back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I add to this? I really appreciate this commentary on thinking about the context. So I'm thinking about the fact that I'm with friends, which might provide a greater level of safety to engage, because what I'm about to say is a much more direct form of engagement. Yeah. And I think, and also the nature of what is happening. It's one thing if somebody says something and they seem ill-informed or uninformed about it, then I want to educate that person. But this is clearly problematic, right?
Right.
So for me in this example, I'm challenging them directly, and I'm saying something like, knock it off, or you can't do that here, because that is not the community that I choose to be a part of, and I will call it like very directly, stop that behavior, potentially with expletives. But yeah, stop that behavior.
Not while she's on the clock. Not while she's on the clock.
That's right.
Not from her official capacity.
We're not just walking by.
Not just walking by that. Because then the assumption is everyone else thinks that that's okay.
Right.
All right. All right, we're ready for the next one. Oh, here we are.
So different setting, different scenario. You want to read this one, Joan?
Oh, yeah. It's the first day of class, and you enter the classroom and find a seat. Please find a seat when you go to the classroom. Two people walk in and begin yelling, "Terrorist!" at a woman wearing a hijab. You are physically safe and ready to engage. What might you do?
Hi.
Hey.
I'm the wrong one in the classroom. But first off, well, I'm going to go with stand next to her because I don't care what the hell is going on. You're not going to start that in the classroom today. Next is, do you even know who you're talking to? Have you even met this person before you've opened your mouth to start calling somebody a name that honestly is hurtful, and it's irresponsible of you to walk into a classroom and start that statement.
Because standing next to that person, we're saying you feel safe, but
right,
she probably doesn't feel
exactly.
safe.
Exactly. How can you feel safe when someone automatically attacks you as soon as they walk in the door? Yeah. So you have to. I personally have to go stand next to you because I need you to know that you're not alone. Because that just saying that word singles them out and makes their circle so tiny, and you're not. It's growing up and having people call me nigger and a whole lot of things growing up and I was hurt and scared by those statements, or even men singling you out when you're walking alone to go home at night. And I just would have wished someone else was with me at that moment. And I know that if someone said that to, sorry, because I'm so mad just reading it that I'm emotional, and I'm going to want to know, and I'm going to, sorry.
Good breath. Back to your breath again.
But no, I can't.
Yeah.
I would immediately just, I mean, and of course someone hopefully would be calling for someone else to come in and, security or whatever. But I would definitely say that my job in that is to say, hi, we are together, and let us stand here.
Thank you for that and for your vulnerability. If there are people online who are dropping stuff in the chat, I don't know that we're going to get to that. We have it? Okay. Some of our behavior is informed by our own experiences and how we would have wanted someone else to show up for us, or what it might have felt like to have someone step in so we didn't have to do the defense of ourselves, particularly in situations where I may be not positioned best to defend myself from sitting in my class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to echo what this wonderful lady said here, that the very first thing I thought when I saw that was, I'm going to go sit next to her. That's the first thing that I'm going to do. And let her know that she's not alone. I am also going to call somebody, security, campus police, someone, because in today's day and age, just that word brings with it so many connotations that it could challenge the safety of other people in the room that don't understand. And I also believe that, and I could be wrong, but I believe that there would be people in that class that once I did go over and sit down next to her and speak to her, would in some way help me to defend against this. I would like to believe that that person or those two students, whatever, are the exception and not the rule, and that once I spoke up, there would be support behind me. But I would definitely call security or campus police, and I would definitely sit next to her.
Thank you. Can we just have time for one more? Yeah, thank you.
So I have experienced that same situation. I have traveled to like 55 countries. I've been strip searched 4 times. So, I mean, when it happens, people stare. Yes, they feel uncomfortable, but I don't think, now we're seeing with internet, people are giving strategies. How can you actually speak up on someone else's behalf? But definitely we see other people's faces are uncomfortable, but do they have enough courage to stand up? Because you're not experiencing that. Every day when I walk, I know people are staring at me. So I might as well look fabulous if that's the case.
And you do. And you do. But yeah, it's about not nervously laughing or everyone looks uncomfortable. What are you going to do? What are you going to say? And I want folks to reflect on that. I know we all might be feeling heavy after viewing these scenarios. They are real. We did not sanitize them. I want us to think that's why we're thinking about them now. We know that in that moment, it is very difficult. We tend to shut down. What is just one tactic we might be able to recall to be able to put in our toolbox to help us? And you all have helped us think of so many. So thank you so much. And that's why we're having these conversations, because when this does happen to you, hopefully we'll start to feel more prepared.
Yeah.
So again, just think of one strategy. I know we got a lot bubbling around, but we can only retain so much information. We know that. So what is just one strategy you can begin using today? And then if you could, please complete this evaluation. I'm going to, Joan, if you have anything to add too, but I don't want to forget, just grab this QR code. And then we're putting the resources, the PowerPoint, I believe, on the same resource website as for the whole conference today.
No, thank you so much for your full participation today, both in person and online. Y'all are a phenomenal audience.
Yes, thank you.
Clap for yourself. That's not always the case. Sometimes people get really nervous or really scared that they're going to say the wrong thing. If that's you, please join Kaylin's virtual learning community about what if I say the wrong thing. But when we talk about drawing that bigger circle, we mean that. So on October 9th, if you're around, there is a lecture that'll be happening down at the New Brunswick Theological Seminary. The email went out earlier this week or last week. I can't tell time. But registration is already popping. So go ahead and get that in. And with that, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We are turning this back over to the Tyler Clementi Center.
All right, y'all. Another round of applause for Kaylin and Joan. I know I learned a lot. That was my first time actually experiencing that workshop, so amazing for me. I mean, I always say this, we can always learn something from each other. Even when we've been doing this work for a while, we think we know it, and then we hear someone speak and we're like, dang, I gotta write that down. So we're gonna transition to a break now. We're gonna take a 30-minute break. We're actually a little behind schedule, which is great. So what I wanna do is actually encourage you all to take this time to go and check out the Gathering Lounge right around the corner. It's right out those doors and to the left. The Gathering Lounge currently has the Queer Newark Oral History Project happening in that space. You can scan some QR codes and listen to some oral histories. There are curated audio files. They're very short. They're fantastic. I listen to all of them. They're amazing. And it's different queer Newarkers discussing their activism. So they're less than 5-minute clips. You can just bring some headphones with you if you have some, or share them with somebody who doesn't. And I encourage you to, if you don't take this break, to do that. If you need that break to do other things, that before 2 o'clock today, try to pass through there and listen to those oral histories. But take your break however you need to. Be back here at 11 because we have an incredible talk on solidarity with Dr. Sarah Soonling Blackburn. See you soon.